All right, well, the Zoom says we're on air. So today is Thursday, December 5th, and this is our weekly meeting for Backdrop CMS. Here we usually talk about development tasks and other various things that come up over the week. Last week, we sort of had a meeting, but nobody showed up, so we didn't finish it because we didn't adequately announce that there would either definitely be or not be a meeting. So those of us in the United States were celebrating Thanksgiving, so that's probably why most of us weren't there. And the non-communication is why the non-USers weren't there. So apologies for that. We did enjoy our holiday nonetheless. This week, because we had a week off last week, there's a whole bunch of great stuff happening, which is great. As far as community, there are 3 new people who have created contrib modules this week. Sternhagel created image field caption. Matthew Connerton had ported views field view a while ago, but finally moved it into the contrib repository, which is great. So thanks for that. And Bob Christensen, I think, has ported one module before, but this week also did view selective filters. So a lot of progress there. And speaking of module theme layout progress, this week we also had 5, or in the past 2 weeks, we've had 5 new releases: Instagram feed, user reference URL widget, security review, Facebook page plugin, and one-page navigation. So lots of people doing lots of great work over the holiday, which is great. I'd like to turn over to Nate to talk about Backdrop itself.
Okay. Well, earlier today, I was going through the RTBC queue. There's lots of things that have been pushed into the RTBC queue that I'm still working through. Apologies if those things have been sitting there for a while. I'm trying to get through those. One issue that is of importance that I brought up here is that issue 3873 number fields, they throw a fatal error when they're left blank, which is kind of a big potentially data loss type situation where if you're creating a piece of content and the site fatals out on you because you left the field blank, that's not good. So issue 3873 is actually already RTBC. I'll try to take a look at it after the meeting and get that merged in. Views crossports are something that we bring up every week. Issue 3685, we're trying to keep pace with 777 views module. There hasn't been any updates to any of those issues, though. That's a great area if you're looking to contribute, though. 3685 is the issue that just has a bunch of sub-issues for porting things over from Drupal to Backdrop, and there's a lot of work to be done there, just moving things across. There's another big meta issue for flexible templates, a new feature that was added in Backdrop 114. The big meta is 4046. I went through all of the sub-issues there, of which there's about a dozen or so, and found a couple of items that need review. Issue 4104, Gregory has been working on this neat feature that makes it so that as you create a layout, it will make an icon to match the layout. So it creates a custom tiny little thumbnail using GD to represent what that layout actually looks like. It needs a little bit more work. I posted some comments on that, it could be optimized a little bit, but some other feedback from other people would also be appreciated. And another issue related to flexible templates that needs review is issue 4161. Jen actually posted this a couple of weeks ago, adding a feature to make it possible to disable flexible layouts for sites that don't want it. It currently needs review. Let's see. Those are the only ones that have had any activity on the flexible templates. So we'll move on to the next issue, which is this issue that Olaf brought up before the meeting. It's not actually in the 114.2 milestone yet because there are different approaches that could be taken, but it's issue 4158 that the XSS filter, it mangles title and alt attributes, which can affect the way that certain characters are output in an alt tag. That is issue 4158. we need feedback and testing on the approaches that have been suggested. There's 2 different approaches that have been put out there. They touch on some of the main security filtering functions within Backdrop. And so we need some technical expertise to take a look at that. If you're familiar with that system, then please provide feedback. There are other issues in 1.14.2. Like I said, I was working through them earlier today. There's still a bunch more that need looking at. There's currently 64 issues tagged in the 1.14.2 milestone. Almost certainly will not get all of them done, but that's a great place to look for issues that are receiving a lot of activity and bugs that are of high importance. Do you guys have anything else you guys would like to mention for the 1.14.2 version, or any other bugs of high priority that we should discuss? Okay. All right. Well, let's talk about 1.15. 1.15 is the next feature release of Backdrop. It'll be coming out January 15th. Feature freeze is on December 1st, which means that we now have less than a month to complete these features for 1.15. First up is issue.
It's January 1st. You said December 1st.
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, yeah, sorry, January 1st. Time travel. All right, first issue that we've got is adding an image library modal to image fields, issue 3297. Lauren is not here today, although he did post status updates in here, and I'll just read it out since I haven't had a chance to look at this, unless someone else is familiar with this issue and would prefer to give the update. Okay, I'll just read it then. Okay, so status is Graham72 has made progress on an alternate pull request, which opens in a modal. That's great. Functionality is not all in place yet, and I've posted some preliminary comments on the pull request itself. Graham72 added a file name filter to the core image library view, and I've added an exposed sort for date and name up for discussion. This works in the new modal pop-up he's working on, but breaks the functionality in the WYSIWYG modal, image modal for some reason. There's a related issue, re-exposed filters breaking the WYSIWYG image library at issue 3293. Here's a quick screencast / demo walkthrough of the current status. Oh, wow, that's awesome. Why don't I share this? Since we have this wonderful video made. Okay. All right, I'll size this appropriately, and then we'll start from the beginning. Is that the beginning? Yes, okay. Okay, there it goes. So it looks like pager is working, sorts. Interesting. I guess that's what you have to do, and because there's no columns available to click sort. And I guess he's probably going to show, oh, okay, I see. So this is the part that's broken, that these filters don't actually work. Yeah. Well, still, this is interesting, this part here, or select from the image library visually as a very large element. So it seems like we may need some UX work, probably, just deciding the way things should look a little bit. But it's great. The functionality looks like it's coming along really well. I'm really excited to see it in the modal. I think that that's a big improvement. From previously, it was just like right there in the middle of the page. Okay, I'll stop the share. Okay, awesome. Well, Lauren, even though you're not here in the meeting, thank you for that excellent update. Okay, do you guys have anything else you guys want to talk about regarding that issue? No, okay. Next up is auto menu settings in core issue 1610. BW Panda is the advocate for this. I won't recap this one, but the issue is currently RTBC. It has been for over a week now. So I think we just need to get a core committer's eyes on that and see if it's ready to go. So that'll be great. That'll be the first issue from this list that we actually have put into 115. Next up is the recent news block on the dashboard, issue 3566. Tim, looks like it says no update yet, hoping to get this in 115. So St. Paul Tim is committed to focusing some attention on this. Okay. Tim gave the thumbs up. All right. Next up, move the contents of the managed file display page, issue 4031. Jen, you're the advocate for this. It says no update since last meeting. Okay, we'll keep rolling along. Next up is Gregory. He was in the last meeting, was here prior to starting the recording, providing a way to re-enable disabled text formats. This one continues to be really close, but he says that there hasn't been any updates since the last meeting. Currently looks like it still kind of needs review, kind of deciding what to do there. Next up is my issue, digital signatures on packages, issue 1992. I also have no updates to report. Again, like we have project module in Contrib, or sorry, code sign in Contrib now. There's no official release, but I'm working separately in issue queue over there. And anybody that's interested in helping collaborate on that, you can go over to the code sign backdrop Contrib project and start working on those issues that I've been filing over there. Let's see, entity cache and core, issue number 74. Joseph is the advocate for that. He's not around today, and I don't think that there are any updates. Let's see, someone added to the list here, better workflow states, issue 1475. And I don't know who the advocate is for this. Or what the status is. Anyone here? Did you guys add that? Let's see. Try to see if I can even summarize what this issue is.
That's Doc Wilmot issue.
Oh, yeah. This issue has really kind of gone off the rails from what its original summary is. But this is about making forward revisions or an unpublished revision that is not the active one. It's been a while. Okay, it looks like, so I posted a comment 3 weeks ago saying that if we're only interested in making it better for Contrib or possible for Contrib to make forward revisions, right now it's ridiculous. You have to jump through a whole bunch of hoops to make it possible to have a forward revision and not publish it. And my suggestion is that perhaps we just make it so that we simplify that and make it a lot easier for Contrib to handle the problem of forward revisions. And Dr. Wilmot says that sounds reasonable. So his pull request is pretty simple already, but it adds a checkbox for like, make this the active revision that I personally found to be slightly confusing, that you would uncheck that checkbox and then it makes basically an unpublished version. But how that interacts with like scheduler starts getting confusing. So my suggestion was just that we make the changes that he suggested, but don't have it show a checkbox. Have it be a value element that that can then utilize to decide if a forward revision should be created or not. So seems like that's kind of okay. Looks like I need to post a comment clarifying that it seems like we agree. Okay, well, that's it for the items that are in the 115 milestone. We've got a couple of items on the general discussion. First up is a couple of weeks ago, there were a number of modules on Drupal.org that were marked unsupported by the security team. And we have the Drupal security team. And we have a couple of those modules also existing within the Backdrop Contrib group. So what happens in the Backdrop Contrib space when a module is marked unsupported within the Drupal space? It looks like helpfully, Tim or Jen posted, somebody asked this question in the forum.
I shared that link. It's not urgent, but it just for reference that people are asking about it.
Yeah.
So people are asking about it, but is there an answer actually in there?
Gert said we can't talk about it.
Oh,
Well, there's an answer in the forum that's very general, which just says that it's been noted and addressed and we're working on it.
We can't talk about it. Is it worth talking about what happened like this time, or should we talk about process? So it's really interesting this week. They unsupported like 20 or something Drupal modules on the same day, maybe not 20, a lot. And a lot of people got notices about those modules being unsupported, and a bunch of issues got opened in all of the Drupal queues going, oh no, what do? I need this module and I've been told I can't use it anymore. And at the same time, a whole bunch of people stepped up and said, I'm willing to maintain X module. I know I was using 3 of the unsupported modules on some sites that I'm working on, and I checked all of them. And all of them had people recommending or offering to be new maintainers except for one. So I figured it looks like none of those modules were going to be unsupported for very long. I ended up volunteering to do the other one, so I knew that one wasn't going to be unsupported either. So for modules that aren't going to be unsupported, I don't think that what our reaction in Backdrop should be any different from any other security release, where we know there's going to be a security release in the next week or two or whatever. And so we'll just wait for that to happen and then handle it the same way we do security releases for Backdrop. For a lot of those modules, if there had not been somebody stepping up to be a new maintainer, we would either need to mark the module unsupported in Backdrop, or have the Backdrop module maintainer, if they do want to continue supporting it in Backdrop, work with the Drupal security team to either co-maintain the Drupal version to get the security fix that then they can also apply to Backdrop, or wait 30 days. And after 30 days, the security fix or the security issue becomes public. And then we would get, anyone in the world can get access to what the issue is, and we can produce a fix really quickly on the Backdrop side. So if you're not interested in maintaining the Drupal version of the module, but you are interested in maintaining the Backdrop version, there's a 30-day waiting period between when the module gets marked unsupported and when the release gets publicized. And so we would just need to be part of that waiting period, just like the rest of the world.
yeah, I think Tim summed it up really well in this forum post as well, stating basically exactly what you had just said, Jen.
You must not have read that many comments. Or maybe I did read it, and that's why I said exactly what I said.
Yeah, the current situation is that we can still have these the modules can be maintained on the Backdrop side and not maintained on the Drupal side. If you're not willing to become, or the Backdrop maintainers aren't willing to become Drupal 7 maintainers when that window is complete, like those issues will become public. So we'll actually know them, and then the backdrop maintainer can fix the issue and make a new release on the backdrop side. That's a little bit of a bummer, though, that we can't really get access to those issues without also making Drupal releases.
I don't know. It seems only fair. I mean, all
Yeah.
you have to do is fix the issue. Like, you don't have to do anything else in the Drupal module. So, and to be a maintainer of a Drupal project, all you like, the only thing you're really looking for is, are you going to collaborate with a security team if there's a security issue? Because a lot of these Drupal 7 projects are sort of, you know, mostly abandoned. The only thing that really matters is if there's a security issue. And so that's all they're looking for. And if that's what you're going to do today anyway, because that's what you want to do for your backdrop project, this gives you early access to it. In my case, I took over NodeQ, and I'd been doing a ton of work on the backdrop version of NodeQ anyway. So when I did the release for Drupal, I included a bunch of really minor user interface changes too. So it's not entirely abandoned, like there's still new work happening. But yeah, you don't have to agree to do all of the work on the Drupal project too. All you have to do is fix the security issues as they come up.
So I added the deprecated contrib modules to the agenda, which overlaps a little bit with this, in that this week, Peter noted that the Fancy Block, not Fancy Block, excuse me, Instagram Block module, the API for that is no longer going to be supported very shortly, and it hasn't been maintained. The module hasn't been maintained or updated. And so he was first like, what should we do about it? And then he went ahead and created a new module based on something different. And so then the question became, what do we do with this old module that might not be working anymore? How do we handle that? It's somewhat theoretical because usage stats show 1 to 3 people using that module. And I know I'm one of them, so I'm not sure if anybody else is, but in theory, like, how do we handle a scenario like that where we know a module is sort of broken or based on a broken API? Do we have a policy for deprecating that, or the discussion was, do we unpublish it from backdrop.org and then just leave it in GitHub for somebody to?
So we have there's a maintenance.
Did I get lost? I think I got bumped.
You're frozen, but we can still hear you. Can you hear us?
Oh, I think he's gone.
We lost him. Well, to answer the question, we have a maintenance status option on backdrop module themes and layouts. And so if something becomes unmaintained, we can mark it as such. It's actually called unsupported. So that would be one way to indicate to people that the module you're using isn't going to be supported anymore. I would also recommend putting something in the info file that says, you know, this module is not going to work, right? So that people who are using it, if they go to the project page or the GitHub repository, will see like, you know, Instagram API has been abandoned or whatever is causing that module not to work anymore. And then I don't think we have a way to automatically link different projects together. Like this one's a recommended next alternative, but I would put that in the info file too. So like if you know we have a new module that works, this old one isn't going to, you can say, this module is unsupported, here's the one that we recommend. And that way, as long as it's
you mean the
documented.
README file, right?
Sorry, the README file. I said the info file like 4 times. The README file. Yeah, just so that it will be visible on the module page on backdrop.cms and in the repository, the first thing people see.
Yeah. In addition to that, just like Drupal modules, we have the ability to specify the recommended version. Like if a new version comes out, version 1 versus version 2, we can edit the node on backdropcms.org and say that you know, version 1 is no longer supported. Or in the case of like a completely unsupported module, we say none of the versions are supported. And what that'll do is update status will then put a big flag on the sites that are running that module saying you're running a module that is no longer supported.
We don't have a recommended version option.
What's that?
There's no recommended version.
It's there. It's just hard to find. Are you talking about on the project page? It's not on the node form. It's a separate tab.
There's nothing on the releases tab and there's nothing on the releases table tab.
Yeah, there's a bug in project module. It's there. It's under edit/releases. You have to type it in right now.
There's edit/releases,
Yep,
not
edit/releases.
NID. Huh.
Did you find it?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
This is once again like a little bit of an issue that you can't do absolutely everything from GitHub still. There's still some things that need to be done on backdropcms.org, and setting the default branch or setting the main supported release and unmarking things as supported is one of those things.
So thoughts about unpublishing the node. My instinct is that we shouldn't unpublish the node. I think we should.
Right.
But
We should. Yeah, put a note in the README, like you say, or on the project page.
Yeah.
And then mark it as not supported on the releases tab.
Okay. This one was Instagram block. Okay. So it as a module maintainer, if you wanted to make one of your projects unsupported, how do you get in touch with somebody who can mark this release version as not recommended? Would that be like open an issue in the Backdrop contrib queue?
Yes, I think that's the best spot. Backdrop ops/contrib.
Okay.
Since that's the way you get in touch with Backdrop contrib mainers about everything else related to contrib modules.
I think we have a documentation page for this. I just want to make sure we get this in there. We have information about like security releases and stuff.
Okay. While you're working that out, Jen, we can go to the next item. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Okay. So the next item, one that Olaf wanted to talk about is port something like ctools to ease the process of porting modules. There already is a Backdrop contrib ctools module, but it is a placeholder, basically documenting how or why you shouldn't use ctools in Backdrop. So Herbdool made this nice module that is actually just a README. Here, I'll share my screen again just to show you guys what this looks like. Here we go. So there's no reason to install this module. Hooray! However, that doesn't mean that it's necessarily easy. I think the key item here is plugins. I might be wrong that maybe some of these other things are still applicable, but I think, it covers the way that Backdrop deals with these things, and a lot of them definitely have full replacements, like exportables. We have config management, modals. We have built-in modals. That sort of thing make it so that we don't need a lot of these same things. But plugins are conceptually just a very different concept that if we recap real quickly what a plugin actually means, in ctools, it is a file that you create that has a set of functions inside of it. And it also has a declaration, kind of like an info hook that provides information about what that plugin is. And then ctools can automatically discover that thing and all of the other things like it. I'm trying to think of an example of what this would be. But can you guys think of one off the top of your head of something that uses a ctools plugin to expose a list of things?
Address field did it. where it used plugins for how it handled address formats.
Okay, sure, that sounds good. So in CTools land, you might make a plugin or an individual file for every different address format that the system might support. And the plugin provides a function that returns a set of information about it, and then it returns a set of callbacks. So a plugin in CTools is basically an alternate way of doing what we're already doing with info hooks just about everywhere else, where using info hook, it returns a list of things that provide the information, and then it usually has like a file property that points over to the file that is full of the callbacks. So basically plugins and info hooks are conceptually two different ways of solving the exact same problem. Plugins were desirable because in concept, you put all of the code related to something all in one place, as opposed to an info hook, which is in one place, and then the file that contains the code is in a second place. So the only thing that a plugin really does is it does both of those things at the same time. So yeah, we have this documentation on, Backdrop uses info hooks and callback functions instead of plugins, because conceptually, if these two things are two different ways of solving the same problem, we should do it all either one way or all the other way. And what happened with Drupal 8 is that they decided that plugins were the way to go, and that resulted in a massive refactoring of just about all info hooks into plugins. And considering the impact that has on backwards compatibility, that's something that we wanted to avoid. However, we've got this batch of contrib projects that does use plugins and doesn't use info hooks. So now we're in this conundrum where we want consistency, but we also want backwards compatibility with Drupal 7 modules that have been using plugins. So Olaf, I think your suggestion was that potentially we make some kind of CTools alternative module, or like maybe just a subset, maybe just like CTools plugins module that makes it easier for people moving from Drupal 7 to port their modules to Backdrop without having to do this plugins to info hook conversions. Maybe there's something broader beyond just plugins, but I think plugins is probably the key thing that is difficult between Drupal 7 and Backdrop.
We could do something that was like a wrapper that would like take a CTools plugin and run it the way CTools would have run it. Or even CTools could do that. But the problem with that is that at some point, the module's gonna need to be converted. I guess there's nothing wrong with having it. Like we had, what was that, like entity, we had some weird entity middle ground module, right? Until we got the support we needed in core for converting entities over. We could do something similar with CTools too. I don't know. So address fields, let's see, I did two modules that took me a long time to port. Address field was one of them. It took about a week. And meta tags was the other one. I don't think meta tags had CTools plugins, but maybe it did. It could have had I don't remember. But it would have made sense if it did the way it's structured. And it's really it's complicated, in terms of what you have to do mentally, like the gymnastics to be oh, I just have to copy the get info subclass method, or I have to copy this random array from the top of the file into an info hook. But what you're changing is actually very little about the module. You're just taking the array, turning it info hook, and then info hook pointing to the other file. So the amount of actual code change that happens between the two is rather minimal. So I put in the agenda, would it be possible for Coder Upgrade to do those kind of conversions? It seems like since the code change is rather minimal, you would just create an info hook that has everything from the array, and we could give it some examples. I mean, I don't know. The problem is that CTools is a little like use it for anything. But there are some common patterns that we could put in there and say, if it matches this pattern, this is what your info hook look like, and just point at the file where the other one is, comment out the array definition at the top, and then see if that does the trick. I haven't tried doing any work on coder upgrade module, so I'm not sure how complicated that sort of change would be. But in my mind, conceptually, it seems like it should be possible. So I don't know. It's a thought. If we could get coder upgrade to help with the plugin conversion, that might go a long way towards getting modules properly or fully converted from old CTools to new backdrop hooks.
Yeah, things start getting pretty hairy quickly when you have complex modules that have other dependencies that also depend on CTools, because then they start invoking each other's plugin callbacks. So it's a little bit hard to chase it all down, like to automate that. But maybe we don't worry about that. Like, I think probably in most situations, the use of CTools plugins is not complicated. You know, it's not terrible. Like when we ported Views to Backdrop, Views depends on CTools and 777 for a number of things, but the only thing that was really left in Backdrop land was that Views used CTools plugins for the wizards. You know, like when you create a new view and it says, do you want to create a page or a block? Like the option to create a page and the option to create a block were provided by a CTools plugin called a wizard.
Yeah.
And like the total amount of conversion it was trivial to convert that to an info hook instead. So some like view, I guess what I'm getting at is that even for a complex module like Views, it was only using CTools in one place, CTools plugins in one place, and that could have been automated in a fairly easy way. If Coder Upgrade had the ability to just say, wherever there's CTools invoke, replace it with something else, it could have managed that.
Yeah. I feel like I did another, I have like a partial blog post, maybe that's what I put in the wiki there, I don't remember, on like how to convert from CTools.
Oh, interesting. This is actually in the wiki of this CTools project.
Yeah, I don't think this was mine.
Oh, that's funny. This is actually the Views UI wizards that I was
Yeah.
just talking about. Yeah.
So I also have some documentation that I started to write up when I was doing some of these conversions. I have one little bit of documentation that came from Address, one little bit of documentation that came from something else that I converted, where it was the same thing where you sit down and you're like, oh, geez, it's a CTools thing. It's going to be really hard. But once you kind of wrap your brain around how the mapping works, the actual code change was not that hard. So I think if we can do the heavy lifting part on the thinking and put that into Coder Upgrade, it is possible. But I don't know. I haven't looked at it.
Yeah, at least
my wiki changes here too.
Yeah, I haven't looked at Coder Upgrade recently either, but I know Coder Upgrade has the ability to not necessarily change everything, but flag line numbers and just say, and just link to documentation saying, you know, this doesn't work anymore, but try this, and then link to documentation. And I think maybe that by itself would be a big improvement if we don't have that already for CTools. So I don't know, this might not be what people want to hear, but you know, it sounds like this discussion is trending towards we need better documentation, not another module that actually provides a wrapper. And maybe that would, you know, we can build tools to help make those conversions easier, but yeah, providing a wrapper, I mean, while possible, we really want to get people off of using these plugins in the first place because it's creating a split in the mental processes of how backdrop modules are written. It's like, are they written with plugins or are they written with info hooks? And we're trying to say everything that uses info hooks. Okay. Anything else, Olaf? Oh, you're muted at the moment. Oh, still muted if you're talking to us, Olaf. We can't hear you. Yeah, I'll just unmute you with that.
Okay. Just wanted to say that I found it very interesting. And I think also other people who are porting modules got some hints. And yeah, thank you very much.
Okay.
Also, I'm adding all my notes into this wiki. They're not like well formed, but it might be helpful to someone.
Okay, let's see. And there's one last question on here. Can we expect a bug fix release before January 15th? And I think yes, absolutely. Without going into too many details, there are some pending things in our security queue that also need to be cleared out. And so we need, I think it would be preferable of us to get those out at the same time as the next release. So yes, there'll be a release because we are starting to accumulate a large number of fixes. And also we have a couple of security fixes that are basically ready to go. So yes, I think that's it. You guys have anything else you guys would like to discuss or talk about? Okay, let's call it a meeting then. Thank you guys all for sticking through the extra long meetings today from the previous meeting on through this one. Really appreciate everybody joining today, and thanks. See you guys on the internet. Bye.